Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Racers Driving League for Season 19, Round 23. Welcome to the penultimate race of the season, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And welcome along to the final qualifying session of the RDL season here under the lights in Yas Marina. One more test to see who's got it, where it takes us go for that 23rd and last pole position of the season. As of course, next week is the infamous reverse grid finale to be run on the reverse Silverstone. Of course, this track would traditionally host the last round of the championship, but not to be this season. Silverstone will host the finale in its reverse combination. First few cars about to head out to the circuit for the first laps, being led out by Imri. Should be a very exciting encounter here around the 16 corners of the Yas Marina circuit tonight. And we'll see who's got it in them to try and take victory. Of course, Grumio long confirmed as the driver's champion. The fight is still on in the constructors, but 41 points separating Haas from Williams right now. So Haas go into this penultimate round in the lead, but only have Dan scoring points from today. So if Dan can outscore the two Williams cars, Grumio and JB, by just 2 points, then they will become the constructors' world champions with a round to spare going into that last race next week. Of course, Imri and Red Bull still chasing currently in the race, or rather being chased in the race for fourth place in the constructors by Mercedes, who took just 7 points behind them. So it's still a very close race to be marvelled at in these closing 2 rounds. So it should be an exciting encounter. Of course, the race in the Drivers' Championship, Dan, of course, has second place just about locked up at this stage. I think even on countback, Landlord can't catch him. He's exactly 50 points behind. But Che, though, is still 9 points behind Landlord, so could return to third place in the standings with a good race next week, potentially. Who we're banking on Landlord perhaps not having a good run tonight. Landlord, who joins the session late alongside DJ in the Alpine. So we've got 2 cars in mind who will join us later on to make it a full grid alongside our reserves, TJ and the returning Divine Stag. Good to see him back on the grid. But Imri now last corner, and we'll see what he's got in his locker for the first qualifying run around Yas Marina. Of course, 16 corners remodified back in 2021. Came into the game first in F1 22. So through turn 1, a simple unchanged left-hander. Into turn 2, the second left and immediate right for turn 3. Careful to hit that apex bollard in the corner. Through 4 and down towards 5, of course, place of many late overtaking opportunities in the past. Of course, there's one that stands out amongst all the rest in 2021, the first race on this configuration. Down the backstretch, going down towards turn number 6 now, DRS in play. Of course, a lot of battery to be used, quite a lot of long straights in the circuit. 3 or 4 of them that can really be used with battery in mind. Start lock up from Imri there, going into turn 6 and through 7, through the only chicane that remains unchanged on this circuit since that remodification. Of course, going down to what is now turn 9, but what used to be that triple chicane. Overtaking opens up a lot more in the past, as you saw Ericsson coming around to start his lap for the Sauber team. Imri through turn 9, long flowy left-hander, and now towards the hotel section into the last part of the circuit. So through turns 13 and 14 now, a lot more flowy, a lot more streamlined compared to the circuit's original configuration. 2 corners to go, and carrying a lot of speed here into turns 15 and 16. Of course, braking for turn 16, the last braking point on the circuit. Good traction on corner exit for Imri. It'll be a 1:22.7 for the 7-time pole sitter this season. And we'll see if he can try and make it 8 poles. I'm forgetting if he got pole last week in Qatar. But a solid first lap regardless. And apologies, no, last week was Imri's 8th pole of the season. Grumio leads that fight 9-8 between those two, so Imri can tie up tonight with pole position. 9 poles for each of them. Been more than a match for Grumio over 1 lap over the course of the campaign, but of course over the full race distance, Grumio has been a cut above the rest. He comes through turns 13 and 14 himself now. And we'll see what sort of time he puts in. Webbsy across the line, 1:23.5 for the Alpine driver. HB Cook into third, 1:23.6. So no one capable of topping Imri yet. And Grumio towards the line. Grumio came to play, 1:22.4. So it's up by 3/10 on the Red Bull driver. Ericsson into P5. Is it 10th cannon towards the line? P5 for her. 1:24.022. 400ths in front of Ericsson. Next car to the line will be one of the RBs. The lone RB, so that'll be Divine Stag, who was reserving, can't score points. Down into third place for Haas. On a day where only he can score points for that team, needs to try and beat Grumio in this race. Yellow flag down at turn 5. No concerns there. TJ about to start his first lap. There he goes towards turn 1. Of course, he's running as Dan's teammate in place of Che this evening. Landlord with a chance then to try and open up that 9-point gap to Che. Should he finish with a good result tonight? But of course, will likely be starting from last unless he can get the lobby fast enough to get a lap time in Q1. Looking at same thing for DJ, who has scored 25 points since making his debut. Of course, that first race back in Monza. Of course, had that podium a few weeks ago. We'll see if he can try and add to that. Coming through from a very chaotic Las Vegas Grand Prix. Last week was sort of a return to form for a number of drivers. Grumio came away with a win. Che second. Pope in third. Dan, of course, had a race ban to deal with. And hopefully soon we're looking at an arrival from our wonderful co-commentator Ben, who will hopefully be here shortly. Not in terms of time frame, not quite sure, but hopefully he'll be here soon and be able to get both of us having a good chat about what's been going on over the course of the evening so far. Here comes Curtis in through turn 14. Currently had 10 cars at lap time, still being led by Grumio. Imri second, Dan third. As DJ now joins the session, so up to 19 cars. Once Landlord joins us, we should have a full grid, but up towards the line now for the Ferrari. Curtis into P6. EJ there in P7, so it's a good start to the thing for the Scuderia. Of course, they only lead RB by 4 points going into this decisive penultimate round. So that fight to avoid finishing in last place in the Constructors is still very much on. But with Divine Stag in as reserve, only Alvar can score points to that team, same as it was. Same as it has been a few times this season, rather. Alvar has been there and coming off of 2-point scoring finish in the last 3 races. Finished in P12 in Qatar, so wants to try and get himself back inside those points playing place, especially after a tough week last week for Ferrari. No points for either one of them. Curtis wasn't in the race. EJ only came home 11th, so 1 place in front of Alvar, so kept the RB from scoring some points. And there's JB, P13 at the moment. Same place as the position in the Drivers' Championship, 27 points from these first 22 rounds of the campaign. Only 3 points back from Curtis and a further 5 behind PJ in P11. I'll say most likely the top 10 of the championship, short of any dramatic changes, are wrapped up in terms of who will finish in the top 10. Final positions, of course, will be decided next week at Silverstone. JB still getting used to his wheel and pedals. And we'll see if we can get any more improvement out of him in tonight's racing. Yellow flag, slow cast, one of the McLarens goes slow, SAT goes slow. He's there at P4 right now. 123.2 for him. Webbsy in P5, then HB Curtis, EJ, PJ in 10th. And JB in 141.9, his best showing. So we'll definitely need to go out for another run. There's still under 10 minutes to go though. Okay, I've received word that Ben won't be with me for tonight's race, so it'll just be me for tonight. So we'll continue on as we are then. TJ, the only car currently on outlap. Ethan, Webbsy, and Pope all on flying runs. But I think Pope has just finished his lap. He's going towards turn 5 now. 122.9. So again, Pope is sort of bridging that gap along with Dan to from the sort of the top 4 for the back. Pope, of course, came home with the podium in last week's race in the end. Was fought a number of strong contenders in that front. Imri was, of course, leading the way early on in the race in Qatar. Managed to obviously grab pole, got away on the start, and was holding on to things until more or less the start of the second stint. As Dan retires in the session, calls it quits. Obviously they're in 4th place and most likely through to Q2, I should imagine. Still waiting on 5 cars to set lap times. Ethan coming towards the line now to change that. I'll make that 4 cars lap times. He's over the line. 1 minute 24.078 puts him into P13 on our timing screen. So just waiting now on TJ, Cottony, DJ, and Alvar. DJ is looking for the pit entry here, and TJ is going down towards turn 4 now. And towards turn 5, 17.4 is first sector. Of course, TJ does have a slot for next season in terms of being on the full-time grid for the campaign ahead. So yeah, as the weeks have gone by and I think we've neared the end of Season 19, the new teams are coming into play. Number of strong lineups on here. Of course, we won't know in terms of what teams they're driving for until the team draw after, which will come the week after next. Of course, at the end of the season after Silverstone, the week after that, I should imagine we'll be looking at the team draw. Of course, I'll leave it till next week to find out exactly what those lineups are. We'll reveal those later on. But right now, of course, our focus is still on qualifying as JB comes across the line here to start what will be his second run in this session. And we'll see if he can find some more time to try and get himself out that bottom four. Still no sign of Landlord as of yet. But of course, we're knowing at this point that he will be starting dead last if he does not get here in time. Of course, we've seen Landlord come charging through the order before. He's very good at this circuit. Of course, Grumio has been the master of Abu Dhabi for a fair few years here, as he gives his teammate a tow going down towards turn 6. It's good team play as always from the two Williams cars. Of course, there's 2 races left to them as teammates. And JB here may return the favour. Of course, Grumio on an outlap, so nothing in terms of time for him to think about. Whether JB perhaps will give it a good go down towards turn 6 next time with Grumio in behind him, try and gain some more time. Of course, doesn't need more time, of course. He's still got the fastest time on the track right now, 1:22.411, which is clear of Imri's by just over 1.3 tenths. JB towards the line here. Big improvements this time around. 1:23.5. It's up to P6 there. Fantastic lap time from JB. And I'll say this, if Williams can perform that sort of way later on in the evening in the Grand Prix and get some good points out of it, that'll bring him up to, I believe, 33 points for the evening, should they end the race in these two positions. And that'll gain him a fair number of points in the championship. They need to gain a sort of around 20, 21 points each in these last 2 races in order to upend Haas for the Constructors' title. It's still possible, especially with Grumio behind the wheel, but you never quite know who is going to emerge as contenders in the reverse grid finale. Of course, we'll get the lineup revealed to us when we come towards next Monday. Obviously, with the faster guys, the sort of guys you're seeing up front now, Grumio, Imri, Pope, Dan, AT, they'll be starting at the back of the field, obviously. As Grumio retires in the session. Here is Alvar coming through, HB Cook retiring too, so that's 4 of the top 10 all ending their sessions early. Just a few minutes to go here. Alvar, of course, one of those 3 cars, yet set lap times currently below the cut line, like his temporary teammate for tonight, Divine Stag. Alvar into P9 there over the line. 4 minutes to go still in Q1. But Alvar's a good lap for him. It's what he needs. He got the power down when it mattered. But of course, still plenty of time for drivers to come back out and try and beat that time and start including Ethan here, who's currently the first car out by about half a tenth, more or less, just over half a tenth to 10th Cannon. And DJ still on that, still looking for a valid first time. Gets himself onto the board. Here comes Imri emerging from the pit lane. He's got PJ in behind him. DJ has had his lap time deleted. Ethan has not, so we'll continue with Ethan here. Right on board with him going down towards turn 6. Deploying his ERS as well. Just keeping control of things here with that Aston Martin as he makes his way down towards turn at number 9. Second sector split coming in now. He's up by almost 4 tenths on his previous effort, and that will put him sort of around, or perhaps inside the top 10 potentially. We'll see where it puts him. He's currently the first car going out. Yellow flag again. That's one of the RBs backing off. I believe that is Alvar, who's letting the two Red Bulls go through. As well as the Aston Martin of PJ. Ethan towards the line. We'll see how he gets on. It's P8 for him, and he improves by over 4/10, almost 4.5. So into the 8th spot, and that'll knock 10th Cannon out for the minute into the bottom 4. She's going to need a big lap here in order to get herself out of that bottom 4 and into the top 15. Only 300 separate her from PJ at the minute, so really not much in it at all. So we'll see, has she got the speed to try and get herself out of that as Imri retires from the session? And we'll see if his teammate will go on through here. 10th improving by a 10.5. So gains being made. Equally, PJ is down his first time rather. So things looking good for 10th Cannon as Ericsson retires. A risky place to do it from Ericsson's there in P14. If we see enough drivers improve, and we might, then we could see an elimination here. As Courtney Goblin pulls the car over to allow DJ through. Last 2 corners for the Alpine driver. We'll see where he puts himself. DJ only P17 here. Webbsy in P7. Of course, this is on a race week where these guys are looking still slightly nervously over their shoulders at Sauber, who if they have a good race can still try and gain some points to put themselves in contention to try and nick P6 in the Constructors. Minute to go. Alvar retiring from P11 here. I think he should most likely be safe. And 10th over the line. Up to P6. That's a big lap there from 10th Cannon. And PJ into the last corner here. Not improving, but he's recharged his battery. So it's going for one more effort here to try and salvage his Q1. But 10th there, up in the 6th position, which is that's possibly Red Bull's best session combined all season long in terms of the Imri 10th partnership. So PJ going again here. We'll see what he's got lined up. Up by a 1/4 as Pope retires there from 3rd place. Top 5, or top 10 I should think, all going through at this stage. And PJ's invalidated it. And that will do it then for PJ's effort. So it's lap deleted on a corner exit, leaving turn 5. Checkered flag is up, knock PJ out. DJ is down by 3.5 seconds at the end of his 2nd sector. I should think he's out as well. Yes, he is. Crossing the line there, but P17 for him. Courtney Goblin over the line. P18, he's also out. Divine Stag, of course, returning as reserve. And this needs to be a good lap for him here to try and get himself into the top 15. He needs a lot of improvement. And I think he may be missing out. Towards the line, 1:25.9, up by 6.5 tenths, not enough. And that'll do it then. So everyone else from here is safe. TJ can cruise around with the knowledge that he is going through. 10th Cannon, P6. What a lap there from her coming into this first session. PJ with wing damage there. Not quite sure where he got that from, but well, there we go. Tough end then to Q1 for Aston Martin as PJ goes out. Ethan, of course, goes through. We'll be looking here at Q2. Grubio fastest by 3/10 from Imri, Pope, Dan, and AT, your top 5. Then it's 10th, JB, Webbsy, Curtis, and Ethan, your top 10. EJ, HP Cook, Alvar, TJ, and finally Ericsson all go through. PJ Khaled, DJ, Courtney Goblin, and Divine Stag all out. And that'll do it then for Q1. So Q2 will be underway in just a moment. So Q2 about to get in the way then, and we've whittled it down to 15 drivers now who will fight for a place in Q3. And we're seeing our first few cars out on the circuit already being led by Dan this time. Of course, locked on to second place in the Drivers' Championship this season. Of course, he's been the only driver who's been able to sort of keep any sort of pace with Grumio over the course of this campaign, but still a tough one to swallow. Grumio's dominance has been there for all to see throughout the campaign, and we'll see if anyone can come back and challenge him next season. It should be very interesting to see who can and who will. Of course, second season on the game, often a lot more competitive than the first. Everyone's had a bit of time to get used to the game and see how it handles and go back to tracks that have run before with this game. So next season should be as entertaining as this one was, but hopefully with a bit less dominance from Grumio. Of course, the Constructors' Championship will be getting won for the first time in, I believe 4 seasons by a team that has neither Grumio or Landlord on it. Of course, the last time being back in season 15 when C110 PFan and BJ won the championship for Mercedes back on F1 23. So we're looking at quite a while ago here. But down at the last corner here to start that first lap. And of course, as we say, crucial weekend for Haas. If they can outscore Williams by 2 points, then they will win the Constructors' Championship. There'll be 2 points to tie it, rather, and if they can outscore by 3, then that should make them champions. End of the first sector, 17.3. Going down towards turn 6. Dan looking for a toe here. Going on towards the left-hander of the corner. Off that Ferrari. Gets through nice and easy. Everyone was being very courteous to let him go. Everyone out on the racetrack here. Sorry, only HB Cook is still on the pit lane, but making his way back onto the circuit now. And down towards turn 9. 52.3 second split. Looking for a strong end to the lap here to try and get himself to challenge a bit more compared to how he was in Q1. Of course, P4 for him in the end. But still a few tenths off of Grumio and Imri. So 2 corners to come here for Dan. He's almost all his battery, almost deploy. Coming towards Dan. He's done very well in terms of managing it over the course of the lap. Final corner from now and charging towards the finish line. 1:23.0. So an improvement on his Q1 time. EJ starts his lap. Curtis coming towards the line. Spin there from one of the Red Bulls. That is 10th Cannon around, who slides it going out of turn 14. Moves out of the way to avoid getting in the way of any of the cars currently on fast lap. Spins it again there just to sort of keep ourselves stationary. And train here cars coming through. Pope, Alvar, Ethan, Curtis all coming through set times. Pope's second fastest. It's very close here between those two drivers. Imri now coming through, avoiding the scene of his teammate's mistake. Last corner, Imri 1:24.3. But of course, Q2, as we know, we see a number of drivers running that older set of tyres in the first run of Q2 and then bolting on their fresh ones for the second run. So if some of these drivers aren't as fast, we'll know which set they're running by the time they come through for their second laps. As Grumio enters the pit lane here, I believe had his lap deleted. So no lap time in there for Grumio this time. TJ final corner. 1:23.5 to have for third place. So Haas run 1 and 3. Only Pope separating them half second between those two teammates for the most part. So Dan, of course, leads things after that first lap. Pope in second. Alvar there in fourth place, 1:23.577. You saw Ericsson just cross the line there, 1:24.2. It's enough for P6. So 10 cars at the lap times here. AT, Grumio, HB, JB, and 10th Cannon. All 5 of them not quite through on their first laps. HB Cook last sector now going into the left-hander of turn 9. Keeping the car under control as he makes his way towards the hotel section. into the braking zone of turn number 12. Of course, it's been a remarkable season for HB Cook, capping off with his obviously Grand Prix victory just 2 weeks ago in Vegas. Came and obviously followed that with 9th place in Qatar last week. 5-point scores in the last 5 races. Of course, points at Kota, points in Mexico, 4th in Brazil, the win in Vegas, 9th in Qatar last week. So it's been a good run of form for HB Cook as he goes P3 on the board here, 123.485. That gap yet to be bridged between anyone chasing Pope and Dan here. But 9 minutes to go and still time for these guys to get their second sets on. You can see AT making a move. Heading back out onto the circuit. I think this time on his fresh set. I think same for Grumio. And I can see JB in front of him there. Of course, JB has put his own lap in now, 124.383. So we shall see if the same sort of team play comes into effect once again. Will JB stay out a lap longer to try and help his teammate? Or will Grumio just try and push to the top of the board regardless? JB coming into the pit lane then, it seems, and Grumio will go for it by himself. No toe on hand, but this is, of course, this is Grumio we're talking about. The man doesn't always need a toe. One could argue that he is his own toe in that sense, so he enters turn 1. And I want to avoid getting his lap deleted. And we'll see in terms of pace what he puts on what I'm guessing will be his fresh set. It is a 17.1 for Grumio, end of the first sector. Imri is also out on circuit. He's going down towards turn 6, so you should see Grumio appear in a picture in a moment. There he is, he's in the background. .205 miles an hour towards that braking zone of turn 6. Bit of a lock up, keeping the car controlled. DRS into play, heads towards 9. Only 7 cars out on circuit right now. 5 of them on out laps. The only 2 are currently on laps, so Grumio and AT. AT going towards turn 2 now. 51.9 for Grumio in his second sector, so looking at a good run here, and likely a run that will top the session. Yellow flag down at turn 6, yellow also at turn number 16 as we're seeing Alvar and Imri set themselves up. Grumio final corner towards the line, next to be 122. A low 22 here, 122.078. Where did he pull that one out from? Fantastic lap from Grumio there, and just under a full second in front of Dan. And you think it's Q3 ready for Grumio as Imri goes through turn 5. But a very fast lap there in from the current champion. And one that will leave his opponents scratching their heads as Imri charges towards 6. Because Imri knows what he's chasing. Chasing that 9th pole of the season as he comes towards turn 9 himself. And improving almost by a second himself, up by 8 tenths. Up him until 123.3. Of course, needs a lot more than that in his final sector to try and keep up with Grumio. He's currently the first car out, but that will likely change as he comes through to complete this lap. He'll want to try and avoid having it deleted here. Last 2 corners. And you saw Curtis into 4th place, Webster into 5th. Imri slides at the last corner towards the line. He improves by 1.8 seconds, but still only a 122.5. Grumio is gone off like a shot here and dominating this first part of the session. With this next part of Q2 rather. There's still 5 minutes to go. And we are still none the wiser as to who will likely join those 2 in Q3. Ericsson is now the first car out. Ericsson with the 1 minute 24.208. I think you more or less need a 1 minute 23 minimum now to get into Q3. Yellow flag down the hotel section. Going into turn number 12. And that would be the RB of Alvar, who's currently P9 right now. And down by 2 tenths backing off. I think might be going again for another lap. And into the pit lane now. Again, RB remain the chasing team here. They've been the chasing team the majority, if not the entire campaign. So AT goes back out on the circuit. Ericsson down towards turn 9. As I say, currently the first car out, but improving by 0.2, or a quarter of a second pretty much. Getting himself currently into the high 23s at this rate. Four minutes left. And currently it's Ericsson, Ethan, JB, 10th and AT all going out. Got just 2 more corners to come for Ericsson. Can he try and join his Sauber teammate HB Cook instead of the top 10? Up towards the line. It'll be a 1:23.3. Big improvement in that last sector. And Ericsson actually now topping his teammate. Those two looking very good all of a sudden. A few cars on outlaps here, particularly the ones in the bottom 5. EJ starting his next lap. Ethan and JB going in the second sector now. Same thing for AT. 10th Cannon, the only car in the pit lane. Dan back on the circuit again. Gonna try and bridge that gap. He's almost a second behind Grimir, remember. 0.987 is what separates those two. So EJ charging here down towards turn 9. Websy retiring from P6. Think likely should be safe going into Q3. EJ up by 3.5 tenths. Curtis also retiring. Last corner then for EJ, up towards the line. Up into 9th place. JB into the last sector, up by 7 tenths here. It's looking good for him. He needs a bit more than that to get himself inside of the top 10. They're always sliding it there as he goes out of turn 9. And that could be trouble for JB. He was improving by quite a way there as Grimiro now retires. It's 5 of our 15, now calling it quits, but all 5 of those currently going into Q3. So yeah, in from P9 down, starts to get a bit nervous at this point. AT takes 3rd. JB's got a minute 20. Trying to get back as much battery as he can. Ericsson retires, he's there in P8. And everyone at bottom 5 all on the circuit here. Alvar starting to be his last lap. And what could be his last qualifying lap of the season here as he enters turn 1. 10th Cannon, currently dead last. And right now has a teammate just in front. So could there be a bit of team play on show here? As JB retires, JB is out of the session. And we'll see now what 10th has lined up. EJ for the last few corners. EJ's backed off. And pitting here. I think it could be out of fuel. The red fuel light is on the car. Brings the Ferrari back into the pits, and that may do it. 20 seconds to go. No chance of getting back out there. EJ is the second car out of qualifying. TJ, Alvar, and 10th all still on circuit. Alvar down by just under a 10th. TJ up by just over a 10th. So it's looking good for those two right now. We're looking for one of them right now. 10th Cannon up by a 10th and a half. And look how close things are in that bottom 5. Anything less than a 1:23.5 will be enough to knock Ethan out. Second flag is now up. EJ across the line. He is out. Alvar, final corner. Landlord's just joined us. So we'll see Landlord in the Grand Prix later on. Alvar stays in P13. He is out, unfortunately. And, of course, one Ferrari gets into Q3, which isn't good for RB's hopes in the Constructors. 10th up by half a second. It's looking good for 10th here. But she needs another half second more in this last part of the track to get herself into Q3. Could it be on here? Could it be a double Red Bull Q3 to close the season out as they chase P4 in the Constructors' Championship? TJ into P7. Ethan goes out. And 10th Cannon could knock Ericsson out here with a last-ditch effort. She can nail this last corner up towards the line. It's going to be very close. 10th goes through by 13 thousandths of a second. Ericsson out, joining Ethan, EJ, Alvar, and JB in your bottom 5. And both Red Bulls will go it through to Q3. Fantastic lap in the end there from 10th. What an end then to Q2. And we now have our 10 drivers lining up for the last qualifying session of the season, no less. And that was perfectly executed from Red Bull. Saw big gains there in the last part of the lap. Very, very good stuff there from both cars involved, particularly from 10th, to nail that final sector the way she did. So going into Q3 then, but of course we lose 5 different cars here. We lose a Sauber, an Aston Martin, a Ferrari, an RB, and a Williams coming into this session. So tough end for those guys. HB Cook carries the flag for Sauber now into Q3. Both Haas cars go through. Just one Mercedes. Same thing as one Ferrari. So Red Bull and Haas getting both their cars in. And there you have it. By almost half a second there, Grimio tops Q2. 4.5 tenths in it to Imrie. 83rd, then it's Dan and Pope, Curtis, TJ, Websy, HB Cook, and 10th Cannon. They go through. Ericsson, Ethan, EJ, Alvar, and JB all go out. And Q3 will be underway for you in a few minutes' time. So Q3, they're about to get underway then for the last time this season. Just 12 more minutes of qualifying to come, and we'll see who claims the last pole of the campaign. And I can now happily say that I'm being joined now by Ben, who joins us for Q3 in the Grand Prix itself. Ben, good to see you this evening, and hopefully should be a good fight for pole.
Hopefully, yeah. I haven't really seen what any of the Q1 and Q2 sessions have been like so far, but hopefully we should be in for a good Q3 session.
To give you the lowdown for both for you and for those of you who have just joined us, Grumio has been topping these sessions to kick things off. He topped Q2 by just under 4.5 tenths to Imrie, who's been his closest challenger across the evening. We've got both Red Bulls actually into Q3, a late effort from 10th Cannon, plus a tow from Imrie, got her into the last part of the session. We've also got HP Cook, TJ in as a reserve, Curtis in the Ferrari. So it's looking good for a number of teams here, Websy, AT, number of fast qualifiers, and it should be an exciting last 11 minutes as we're seeing our first few cars out onto the circuit. Of course, in terms of, I'll ask you this, Ben, so as a driver in the past, in terms of qualifying, the pressure, what is that like in terms when you're in the cockpit searching for that perfect lap?
Oh, it's a lot of pressure. Trust me, I've been in short qualifying sessions before, so this is anything that is completely undriven by it. Is I don't know what I've just seen, but I think it may have been a brake mark board just going off towards the end of the first main straight itself there. I don't think there's any damage on the McLaren or anything like that, but yes, there's a lot of pressure on these drivers, and as simple as one mistake can ruin your lap.
And we've seen it a few times over the course of the evening. If that's AT you were mentioning, and to my, I'm looking on it, I think we're okay damage-wise in that McLaren, so you can continue on with what will hopefully be a strong lap to kick things off here in qualifying. As Dan comes through to start what will be his first lap of, I'm guessing, 2 in this qualifying session. Of course, we come into this one, as we've been saying, with Haas on the verge potentially of Constructors' glory. If they can outscore Williams by 3 points tonight, that'll put them out of range. But with Che not here, TJ in as a reserve tonight, only Dan can score points for that team. So looking at one man to try and defeat both Grumio and JB in tonight's race and win the Constructors' title, going to, perhaps a week early before the last race at Silverstone. But Grumio is, to put it lightly, a weapon around this circuit. So it could go either way, truthfully. But Dan will need to be on his game in order to try and catch Grumio tonight. But I think truthfully, that's been the case the entire season, if we're not mistaken at all.
Yeah, Guru's been an absolute rocket ship this season, so he's been unmatched by any drivers. His Guru gives a lovely toe 30, that's going to find him at least a couple of tenths there.
The partnership between Grumio and AT continues, and it will do into next season as well in terms of driver lineups. Of course, in terms of which team that we're driving for, not quite sure as to which that will be until we get the team draw after the end of the season next week, as Grumio lets through the Red Bull. I believe that was Imri. 10th Cannon still in the pit lane. Only the only car still in the pits right now. Dan coming to the last corner here to complete his first lap of the session. It'll be what looks to be a 122.2 on the board for him. Next car through will be AT. He's coming through turns 13 and 14 now. 52.0 in his second sector. So we'll see if he can maintain that pace into this last part of the lap. Up towards turn number 16 he goes. And coming to the line now to complete the lap, it'll be a 122.8. So P2 for him. Imri in towards the line. 122.4 for Imri, so not quite there in terms of pace. We'll see what Grumio can come out with when he comes through, start his lap in a moment's time, and we'll see where he puts himself. Curtis up towards the line behind. Curtis into 4th place, 123.6. Of course, Curtis is in quite a good spot, Ben. Obviously, when you look at the Constructors' Championship at the other end of the table, Ferrari have been chasing RB, or rather being chased by RB the entire season, but Alvar was knocked out in Q2. Of course, you drove for RB early this season, if memory doesn't escape me at this point. Is there a little bit of you that's sort of rooting for that squad to get it done?
Yeah, I think so. I can tell you when I was on the RB, all cars do and have got equal performance, but you do realise that you're in an RB. Sometimes there is a few characteristics here that's slightly different. Just watching Pope's lap through the end of Sector 2, just going out, I think it may be turn 11, the banking, or it's actually, is it turn 10, turn 11?
The left-hander, turn 9?
Yes, sorry, yeah, turn 9. So just watching Pope going out at turn 9, he did lose the car. So that way his lap over, and then just to make matters worse for the Mercedes driver, he actually validated going into the pit lane. That is a known glitch in the game.
So tough end to his first run for Pope there. Of course, it's been a story we've seen a few times over the course of the season. Grumio towards the line, 121.6. This guy is an alien. You cannot convince me otherwise. Up by 6/10, and he's again locking in faster and faster times. It's ridiculous to see. Dan is still in second. Imri still third, or down to third. There's AT, Websy, TJ, HB Cook, Curtis, and of course Pope in 10th. Yes, at lap times 10th on the back on the circuit here. There's 6.5 minutes to go. So likely 1, maybe 2 laps in for everyone left in this season. But Grumio is looking, as he has done many, many times in the past, especially in qualifying and especially this circuit, looking unmatched as of right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Grumio is on fire. 6 tenths clear of his nearest competitor. Where on earth does he pull that lap time from? I'm pretty certain in the last race, I think it may have been Qatar actually last time out. Imri was right up there, and I believe Imri took pole position. So how times can change in the space of a week in RDL.
Indeed, obviously Imri was on pole last week and was in contention to take the victory. Of course, led through the first stint, we remember, until the issue later on the Grand Prix. There was contact made. I was later told that he had some sort of problem with his wheel. I believe the gears stopped functioning. So we'll knock that down to a gearbox fault and leave it at that. But Imri wanted to try and bounce back this week. He's been Grumio's closest challenger in these first 2 sessions. I should think he gained some more tenths in the closing lap of this qualifying run. But 10th Cannon crossed the line now. Of course, it was a gargantuan effort to get her into Q3, and we'll see now where she can line up. But looking for some good points here is obviously Red Bull. While they've built a slight advantage, they're only 7 points in front of Mercedes. Pope and Courtney Goblin have been chasing those guys doggedly throughout the second half of the season, and yet it's still not over. with only the second closest race in terms of points for a position at the minute. Obviously, the closest gap being Ferrari and RB down in 9th and 10th. Sauber and Alpine, that's a 15-point gap going into this Grand Prix. 41 between Haas and Williams, but only 7 separating those two teams. If you had to give me a team now, Ben, to finish in 4th place, would it be Red Bull or would it be Mercedes?
Oh, it's always a tough one. It's going to go right down to the wire. That being said, though, for some reason, I can see Red Bull just scraping it.
Just scraping it. Of course, Pope with the scoring the majority of the team's points all season, 196 to his name. Courtney Goblin, the only driver yet to score, but we're hoping there would be an opportunity for him tonight, or perhaps in the reverse group finale next week. That should be a very exciting watch as always. 10th Cannon into the pit lane, couldn't quite string a lap together. She heads back into the pits. We should likely see one more run out of her, but we are gearing up now for what will be final runs in this session and the last qualifying laps of the season. You're seeing the Ferrari of Curtis heading out to the circuit and trying to beat the traffic if he can. We often see Pope do the same thing, but no movement from the Mercedes garage as of yet, so we'll keep an eye out and see whereabouts they do choose to make a move, if they do choose to make a move. But it should be an interesting end to proceedings here in qualifying tonight. I see McLaren making moves for AT in the garage, currently in P4, 122.827. The times have gone down over the course of the evening, but still no one catching Grumio. The only time inside those 121s, murderous stuff. And obviously, as we've said several times this season, an ominous sign going into the Grand Prix. But obviously, anything can happen in a race, and we'll see if anyone can challenge Grumio over the course of things here. But for now, though, we have got 3 minutes to go, and looking at last laps, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just looking into it now. Just whoever lines up on the front row or just behind Grumio has got a pretty decent chance of getting Grumio down to turn 1, which could really do shape up the race. Just a bit of a heads up, I reckon Pope could finish maybe on this, maybe definite second row. Maybe even put it onto the front row. We all know how quick Pope is as well around here. So this track is, well, it's fairly DRS train like. It is a really good track to drive around. It's fast, it's flowing, you can't get enough of it.
Honestly, I have to agree with you. Whenever I go on time trial, Abu Dhabi is one of the circuits I almost always look at some point. If I'm sort of on there for like an hour or so doing time trial, doing whatever, then Abu Dhabi is always a circuit I look at. And in terms of Pope, I think definitely a thought to get him onto that second row. I have to see if he can actually match that. But I mean, so far, Ben, you've been alright in terms of your predictions. So we'll see whereabouts he ends up on in the order. He's got 2 minutes to come around and set a time. Obviously heading out to the pit lane now for what will be his final qualifying run of the season. It's been a great season for Pope in terms of obviously missing a few Grand Prix early on, or actually ran them as reserves. Obviously didn't get a full start until the 5th round of the season, which was in Saudi Arabia. Of course, he won that Grand Prix, so it was a good start to his full-time campaign, and we'll see if we can try and put in that same sort of form next season. But of course, this game has been kind to a lot of drivers. I think obviously Grumio's adapted the best of everyone. We've seen life come out of drivers like Dan, Che, Imri, so the sort of the usual challengers. But Grumio's been obviously has been untouched. So everyone is now on the circuit looking at final laps, and we'll see here who has got the speed as AT is there getting a toe off Grumio again. These two love their partnership together, and may we see a lot of it next season too. Obviously, those two together as a pairing.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they could be pairing, maybe they won't be. As Curtis is 2 tenths up for the second sector and coming for the hotel sector now. Very tricky hotel sector to master this. Track limits galore everywhere, but it looks like he's not absolutely mastered it to perfection. How much time will he find? Oh, that's wide at the final corner. That will cost him maybe a tenth or two as he goes P5.
Well, it's not a bad lap in the end. Curtis across the line there as Imri comes through to start his final run. That Ferrari needs to get in the way. He can't take turn 1 just yet. Imri, though, knows it's all on the line here. He's got to nail this lap to get himself, at the very least, back on the front row. And I'll be hoping that Dan doesn't make too much gain. But Dan is almost a tenth up, leaving that first sector. You see the Sauber of HB Cook in behind him as he makes his way down towards turn number 6. Grumio is in the last corner now, starting his final lap. Got just under a minute to go now. We are nearing that checker flag to cap things off here in qualifying for RDL Season 19. Just Websy and TJ to cross the line here. So here we go then, 10 seconds left in the session. Checker flag will be up this time round. Nice gap between everyone here, so we'll get a sense of, in terms of whereabouts everyone is for their last runs. Dan is still up by only 800ths going into this final sector. We've still got a few more corners to go. If you can try and nail this, a bit of a slide there, slide on the rear end as he goes through turn number 12 into the last 2 corners. Fortunate to avoid running wide there. Oh, Grimio's out. He's retired it.
Grimio?
Grimio's, I mean, the car's still moving as Dan stays in P2, improves by a 10th in the end, but the door could be open here for anyone trying to take advantage of that. With Grimio not getting a second lap in. Next car to the line is HP Cookerson, who's had his time deleted, but he can move now to Imri, who's up rather by a 10th and a half. He's been a big exit this last corner to get himself on the front row again. He is on the front row again. 122.1. And HP Cook retiring as well. 10th Cannon towards the line. What will she do? It's P6 for 10th. Ooh. Fantastic qualifying for Red Bull tonight. Pope, last car to set at that time. One goes into P5, 122.4. But, I mean, Grumio's
look at Websy.
Websy's up. Websy's up by almost
6 Websy's up.
Last 2 corners for Websy now. We'll see what he can put in. This could be a stonker lap as he rounds turn 16. AT to P4, Websy to P6. So gains being made there. TJ, the last car to the line. TJ will get, I think that's P6 for himself. Yes, it is P6 for TJ. But Grumio, though, despite retiring at the very end of the session there, that will do it then. Grumio goes on to pole by almost half a second once again to Imri. Dan 3rd, AT 4th, and it's Pope, TJ, Websy, Curtis, 10th Cannon, and HP Cook rounding at your top 10. That will do us then for qualifying this season, of course. No qualifying next week with the reverse grid finale in play. And that'll do it for the moment. We'll catch you guys back in just a few minutes' time to start the Grand Prix. Welcome back then, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the penultimate race of the season here, the Race Driving League Season 19 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the 23rd race of the season, and looking for what should be a very exciting 29 laps here at the Yas Marina circuit. Have a look at the circuit itself. Of course, Grimio, the defending winner, and on pole for tonight's event. Looking, there it is, 16 corners, of course, changed from its original layout back in 2021. We first saw it on F1 22, so we've had this circuit for a few years. This is the 8th iteration of the Grand Prix. Sorry, excuse me, the 7th, run under this layout. It should be an exciting one, but Ben, from what you're telling me before we get going, we could be looking at a 2-stop in this Grand Prix. Is that correct?
Yeah, so the medium tyres don't really last that long around here. Probably say they last about 10 laps before then you start to notice a proper performance drop. The hard tyres really only do about maybe 12, 14 laps. So we are looking at a pretty much confirmed 2-stop here. It depends on the safety cars as well. Or maybe someone can drag it out until lap 12, get a safety car in, and then we can maybe see them go to the end. But it'll be very tight on tyre wear.
So something to keep an eye out for then over the course of tonight's Grand Prix. And of course, we'll get the formation lap underway in a matter of moments here as the last few cars get themselves set up. And we're looking to see in terms of starting tyres, because we'll get more of a sense then in terms of what everyone's going for. Of course, weather won't play a factor in this one. It's almost always dry in the climate around Abu Dhabi. There is the starting grid, and as Grumio will lead the Imri away from pole position towards turn 1, we'll have a look at your full RDL starting lineup for the penultimate round of the season. Landlord starts from dead last for McLaren. Of course, looking to try and hold on to third place in the championship, can increase his advantage over Che, which currently stands at 9 points with a good result tonight, but needs to come from last to do it. Ben, you're right, medium tyres for absolutely everyone on the run towards turn 1 this time round. Divine Stag in as reserve, starting in P19 for his return to the league, and looking forward to a reserve role for next season. Courtney Goblin, P18, still the lone car, yet to score this season. Can he try and spring a surprise and nab a few points for the Silver Arrows? Have to wait and see. DJ lines up P17, sorry. Missed down Q1, of course, arrived late to us, so looking forward to seeing his pace in the Grand Prix to make up for that. PJ P16, of course, narrowly knocked out in the closing phases of Q1 and looking to try and score some more points to help Aston close a little bit on Sauber if they can. But of course, I think P8 is locked in for them, more or less. JB in P15 wants to score a few points to help Williams close on Haas in the Constructors' Championship. They've got a good chance of it with Grumio on pole. Alvar P14, his eyes are on the points today and on nothing else because he needs to get a few points to help close to Ferrari in the race for P9. EJ will try to stop him from the same row on row number 7 of the grid there. Those go both on medium tyres. Ethan in P12, the other Aston Martin, looking to try and get some more points to try and push himself further ahead in the race for the top 10 in the championship. Currently sits in P10. Hey, Ericsson there, P11, looking for a strong run for Sauber. Those guys 15 points behind Alpine. Same for HB Cook, coming off that win just 2 weeks ago. 10th Cannon P9, great run for her, making her way into Q3. Should be an exciting watch in tonight's Grand Prix. Curtis Shepard in 8th place, of course. Ferrari's main hope for points after failing to score last time out. Websy P7, looking again for Alpine to try and close. TJ in his reserve lines up P6, Pope in P5, looking for that second win of the season. AT in 4th place, can he try and get back in front of Imri with just 2 rounds to go in the championship? Dan in P3, locked in for second place in the standings now. Imri P2, and Grumio on pole here, looking for win number 16 of the season. It could be a very exciting one if Landlord comes through. Both of them getting disqualified.
They've both blocked up the qualifyings. Oh, no.
Oh, no. Not a good start to things, but here we come now. They're getting set. The last few cars taking their spots to the back of the grid. Should be a very exciting encounter here around Yas Marina. The lights are coming on here in Abu Dhabi for the penultimate race of the season. It's Grumio and Imri on the front row. Lights out, foot to the floor. We're underway. Poor start from Imri. They got really bogged down off the line going towards turn 1. Grumio goes unchallenged towards that first corner. It's Dan second, Pope in third. 18 Websy side by side. Imri down to the 8th position here. Tough start for our front row runner. Running behind TJ there. Going through turn 3. What happens to Imri on the getaway? Grumio leads go down towards turn 5. What a start there. Imri being challenged by HB Cook in the race for the 8th position. Websy passing AT for P4. The Alpine driver moving clear there. Landlord stays where he is, but Grumio leads away. Ben, what happened to Imri there on the getaway? He practically just stood still.
He did. I wonder if Scar went into standstill if he thought he jumped the start, so he had to stay there a bit longer. Down the inside goes to field him. Oh, there's absolute chaos down at the end of the actual straight. I don't know whether anybody's got damage, but there was a lot of contact made there.
Everyone looks a bit all okay. I haven't seen any shards of front wing go flying off any end plates in a minute, so we're all good for now. Grumio leads Dan then and going out to turn number 9 towards 10. He's got Pope in pursuit, then Websy in 4th place, AT 5th. He's got Curtis right behind him going down towards the hotel section for the first time. Imri's recovered 1 spot. He's into 7th place there over TJ. HB Cook in P9 and 10th holding on to the last point, or ironically in the 10th spot. EJ in pursuit behind in 11th place. So it's been a very exciting first lap here. And we've still got 28 more to go as Grumio leads the way and looking in control right now as he did during qualifying. Fastest lap for him too, so AT go a bit wide. They're leaving the last corner side by side between Ethan and Alvar going towards turn 1. Alvar on a mission tonight needs some points to try and close up to Ferrari and preferably needs something to happen to Curtis at some stage in this race, getting down the order. No points for Ferrari last week, and of course no points for Alvar either, so the chance to gain wasn't quite there. And of course the retirement from Ben Lim as well during that race in Qatar, so tough day for those guys, and we'll see if they can recover as Alvar makes that pass into P12. Oh, contact! And both cars, that was tight. Yeah. Contact again! And luckily, no one hit the DRS marker going down towards turn 6. But Ethan dropping back. I think Ethan may have damage of some sort. I'm not entirely sure as to what's going on with the Aston Martin as he recovers it down to P17 here. So tough break for those guys. Contact being made. I think he's lost an end plate. Yes, no, he hasn't. I'm seeing things. His car is okay, but Dan's taking the lead from Grumio up front. DRS in play for the first time tonight here on lap number 2, and Dan takes advantage of that. So new race leader, Ben, is that Daniel Aaron in the Haas.
Yeah, Dan is looking very quick in the first couple of answers. There's a Ferrari go round.
Oh, contact.
Curtis has got round.
And that might be the lucky break, Ben, that Alvar will be hoping for, because now Ferrari out of the points completely, but of course the onus is still on him to try and get some points in this Grand Prix, and that'll involve him taking on both Ferrari. So scrap that, EJ is still on the points paying places, so 1 point going Ferrari's way. That'll bring the gap back up to 5 points between those two teams. Dan leads lap 2. Imri there with fastest lap, currently in the 6th position, and still working on trying to chase these guys back down again. He's gotten a lot better in the recent weeks in terms of both pace and ERS management, so we'll see how he handles things being stuck in traffic. It should be a very exciting watch to see him try and come back through the order here, but Grumio maybe want to try and come back at Dan here, going out of turn 5 and down towards 6. DRS will be in play this time round, so we'll see, Ben, exactly what Grumio can do.
Yeah, we'll see. They're just coming down the actual straight now. Yeah, Grumio's not exactly trying to use up all his ERS, but it's still maybe close enough to ascend. No, he picked fair off it. There is a bit of a game you can play here with the DRS, because obviously there's 2 straights, one after the other. If you get a good traction coming out of the triple chicane, you've got a great chance, just like Grumio has now.
And there he goes then, Grumio blasted back around the outside, reclaims the lead, Ben. As you say, yeah, 2 DRS zones, one after the other. The only 2 DRS zones on this circuit, don't forget. So that'll be one of the crucial places to overtake, as TJ also makes great use of it around the outside of HP Cook through turn 9. But obviously, as we saw last lap with Curtis, very easy to lose traction leaving that left hand. Of course, you carry a lot of speed through there compared to other corners on the circuit. A lot of the corners on this track have been quite low speed for the first sort of 10 to 15 years or so this circuit's iteration, as Grumio comes through the last corners here to begin lap 4 in the lead once again. Of course, that's bad news for Dan, because of course Haas will be gaining points, or rather losing points, sorry, to Williams in the Constructors. JB currently sits in P13, so only Grumio's points going through here. As it stands right now, that gap currently sits at 34 points between the two teams in the standings. Yellow flag, and that is Divine Stacker's gone around. The reserve in the RB has lost his front wing there and lost it, leaving turn 16, recovers the car, gets himself moving again, but we'll need to go a whole lap, Ben, before we can repair that damage. So tough break for RB, but obviously Divine Stag can't score points in this race, so onus still sits with Alvar in terms of the points getting business.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the worst possible place to lose your front wing, or at least part of your front wing, just surging past the pit lane, isn't it? Is just looking up further up the field now. It looks like HP Cook is actually repassed TJ, so that could be a scrap we could see for a while.
Move the Sauber up to the 7th spot then, but only briefly, because TJ could come back at him with a good enough run. But I think 10th Cannon, truthfully, Ben, might have other ideas going down towards turn number 9 here. 10th makes the move to the outside, but there you go, you see TJ covering her off, so no such move being made on this occasion. Nothing doing for 10th Cannon for the minute. I'm seeing Alvar making a pass here on PJ Khaled, so maintains P14 there behind these guys as they make their way down towards turns 10 and 11 once more here. Grumio maintaining a lead up front, 4 tenths to Dan, as 10th makes a second move here, this time around EJ to move herself up to the 9th spot. So 10th Cannon on the move here. Well, of course, Red Bull aren't scoring as many points with Imri at the tail end of the lead train, but it's looking good for them right now, because Imri's clearly got some pace in him, and we'll see whether or not he can try and get himself back up the order. And we'll see if 10th can join that fight. We'll have EJ on our tail going back towards turn 1 again.
Yeah, I wonder if we're going to start seeing Brazil 25, where Max Verstappen actually started way further down and pulling himself right back up into contention now. Just a bit of a side note on the tyres situation. This is around the lap where everybody starts to struggle with tyres. Just looking at him, he's now, and he had a bit of a snap going out turn 5.
I think, of course, his main aim for the minute we're trying to stick with the lead pack at minimum, and obviously if you're thinking that we're making some moves, thinking about that later on. You can see sort of TJ moving out the way there. Divine Stag finally finds the pit lane then for RB a lap later, and that front wing change being made, as well as a change into hard tyres. He said the hard tyres will last around sort of 12, 14 laps based on the judgment, Ben, you gave me before we got underway. Dan is there in the race lead once again, so makes the move on Grumio. Pope's still in 3rd place, but nothing doing for him as of right now. He's got Websy on his tail, AT and Imri both also there as well. That's another 2.3 back to HP Cook. I think it slid out of turn number 9. 10th Cannon, same thing. Those two, the HP and TJ pulling away at the minute from 10th. And the lockup, and almost losing the back end of the car was 10th Cannon there, but holds on to it. EJ right on her tail, lucky to avoid any sort of contact there as they go through went through turn 12, but 10th keeps control of the car and will continue on as she is then, but albeit now half a second behind as Imri into the pit lane now. And as you say, Ben, we're sort of looking at that point now where the medium tyres will start to fall away. And Imri taking full advantage of that. And he comes now. Hard tires going on. And he is away here. He'll be down the order. Obviously down to P19 track position-wise. But will be the first car to stop. So we'll see what sort of benefit beyond those hard tires this early on will have. As we see Grumio, who may try and challenge Dan again.
Yeah, what we Imri needed to do something different. I wouldn't say call it in this early, but as here goes Grumio against Dan again. Yeah, gets the move done. Fairly straightforward into the braking zone, well ahead of the Haas driver. But yeah, Imri needed to try and do something different there. I don't think he should have picked quite so early, but he needed to try and do something different. The undercut is fairly powerful around here.
And Dan goes back around Grumio. So undercut powerful indeed. These two side by side this time, going through turn 9. Both cars giving each other space. The top two in the championship as Grumio again emerges in front. But these two have pulled a decent gap here. A sizable advantage with Imri obviously out of the picture. Pope now 2 seconds back, with Websy and AT still giving him constant chase here as DJ makes a pass on Curtis. DJ, of course, started back in P17, let's not forget. So he's been making moves in this thing. He's currently up 7 spots, more than anyone else in this race so far. HP Cook up 4, because Imri down 17, but obviously he hasn't made his first stop. So we'll keep an eye on him later on. He's currently about 5 seconds back from Landlord right now. So actually too far behind at the minute. We'll see whereabouts he rejoins when everyone else comes through to make their stops. Anyone pitting this time? Yes, we've got one. That's Curtis into the pit lane. So Ferrari bringing their first of their 2 cars in. And we'll see in terms of tyre, if we go for another set of mediums or a set of hards. Mediums again for Curtis. So but we'll be guaranteed to be doing a 2-stop. Yellow flag. Yeah. 10th cannon out of the race.
Cannon. Oh, 10th.
And crashed at turn 3.
10th was looking so good.
Gutting stuff. The safety car is out. And I have to agree with you. Obviously, Q3 run. And I mean, I didn't see it, but I think I have a sense of what's happened there. I think the obviously as the tires obviously start to fall off, it gets more and more difficult to navigate turns 2 and 3 in particular. That corner is tough enough to get right at speed, even with fresh tires. So, I mean, I think I've done something very similar to that in the past, back on an old episode of Ultimate Career. But yeah, 10th out of the Grand Prix then. So tough stuff. Our first retiree, and that'll be a golden opportunity though for everyone else to come into the pit lane and make their changes. But that could be tough for Imri, given that he has obviously made his stop and is now down the order in P17 and likely won't gain much under this safety car.
Yeah, Imri has got a lot of work ahead of him at the moment. That is a disaster for Red Bull. They did not need 10th to be out of the race, and then Imri to box the lap before, or should I say 2 laps before, the safety car gets brought out. So this is the time for the top runners to all think about making a pit stop.
So Grumio comes in, he'll lead Dan and likely Pope. Yeah, everyone's going in. The pit lane's about to get very, very busy indeed as the pit crews get set for what should be their first stops this Grand Prix. I doubt we can go. Obviously, we're looking at 2 stops, Ben. Obviously, me and you have established that no one can go the next rest of the Grand Prix on these tyres. DJ 3-second penalty there, multiple warnings. Everyone is coming in. I mean, quite literally everyone. No one taking the chance and staying out here. Grumio's away, nice and easy, of course. His pit stop at the very end of the pit lane there. Dan in behind, Pope third, Websy and HB Cook coming in, making that change. AT will emerge in the 5th position. HB Cook get out in front. Where's the Williams and JB? Everyone really going for it. Pope on a second set of medium tyres here, so he's looking for that as the ghosting will move DJ in front of JB. But Imri will gain actually a fair few spots. He'll actually get himself up to what looks like P8. So only 2 spots down from where he was, and only Landlord staying out here. So Imri in a net P7 right now. It's only a place down from where he was, so it's not the worst thing in the world here, but Red Bull definitely could have avoided that had they not had the crash with 10th cannon. But we'll see how they recover. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm a bit slightly confused on Landlord's strategy at the moment, because if there's another safety car right after this, then all the field is bunched up, so it's going to end up being dead last anyway. So Landlord's got a bit of a predicament here. I wonder if it's because AT boxed and Landlord thought, couldn't really risk it. So I don't know what to plan around with Landlord's strategy, but I'm sure we'll see it unfold in the next 10 laps or so.
Yeah, perhaps to avoid the double stack, that could have been what happened down at McLaren. But we'll see in terms of when Landlord does come into the pit lane and how he then recovers from that. Because I mean, I can definitely see there being another safety car over the course of this Grand Prix, but as to when it will be and whether it will be at an inconvenient time like this, rather a convenient time like this one was, we'll see in terms of what the game plan is there. Only waiting on Divine Stag now, who gets the second chance for this Grand Prix, closing back up, of course, after that first pit stop a few laps ago to change his front wing from that spin. Only Landlord yet to pit then, so just that one car And a majority of cars on hard tyres, they try and go as long as they can before a run down towards before a run later on the Grand Prix on the medium tyres, I should think, because as we say, Ben, no one can go 20 laps on the hard tyres around this circuit on this game in these conditions. But you'll have to see. I'm being told, well, DJ's being told he got 2 warnings and a penalty entering the pit lane. I'm guessing the game was considered to be cutting the corner on the way in. So that'll be one for the stewards to have a look at later on. He's only covered the penalty in this Grand Prix so far, so we'll see in terms of should we see anyone else with that in that same scenario later on. But of course, track limit's a bit of a contentious thing with these games for a long time in terms of how good release the penalty system, and that'll be another one to call into question. So we'll continue on as we are then, currently on lap 9 of this thing. And I should imagine that once Divine Stag catches up, we'll have a race once again. There'll be 20 laps to go when they cross the line. It should be an exciting scrap. We'll see in terms of the restart what Dan can do this time on those fresh, hard tyres. We'll see if the tyres better favour anyone else. We'll see if Pope can handle a restart with these guys just in front of him. Obviously, he'll be on the fresher, on the faster tyre of the three of them up front. Webbsy in P4, AT P5. Those guys have been chasing, but haven't really had much chance to break into the fight for position. Land obviously yet to stop, as we mentioned. HB Cook P7, Imri in P8. So tough luck there for Imri at this stage of the Grand Prix. We'll see if that can be recovered at some stage. It should be an exciting watch to try and find out, see if he can do just that. And we're looking now for the safety car to come in. Race control should give us a message any second now to get us back racing again. Divine Stag now at the tail end of the field. And it will be a good looking restart as Grumio leads them away. And there it is then. Message from race control is there. Safety car is in this lap. We're looking for a good one, Ben. Do you reckon that Pope on those medium tyres can have an outside chance of taking the lead?
Yeah, maybe. We'll find out in the next couple of laps or so for definite whether Pope does have the pace to challenge the likes of Dan and Grumio. Grumio has looked rapid throughout this race and through qualifying, but then he's also got to remember these tyres are going to drop off considerably compared to the hard compact tyres. So we'll see what strategy Pope has as we're about to get underway again.
Grumio leads them through turn 15 then for the 9th time in this Grand Prix. And we'll likely start to go here on corner exit out of 16. Just gonna give it a second here, waiting to route to the line, and there he goes. And Grumio again has left the field for dead here. Pope trying to make a move, going down towards turn 1. Can't quite go for it just yet. AT challenging the inside. Webbsy was there for a second. AT's going to get shut out. Imri getting right to work here. There goes Landlord holding on to P6. And Imri up one spot over HB Cook as they go through turn 3 for the 10th time in this Grand Prix. Grumio leads from Dan and Pope once again. And we'll see pace-wise what these guys have up their sleeve as Imri now tries the inside up to on Landlord up into the 6th spot. Imri is back in the race and looks to be no sign of messing around from that Red Bull. The lone Red Bull in this Grand Prix, and of course, with Pope ahead of them right now, it's looking like gains for Mercedes at the minute, but we'll see what Red Bull can do to try and counter that. Grumio leads Dan down towards turn 6.
Yeah, there's a bit of kerfuffle going on at the back. A bit of contact made as well as the LP gets forced wide by TJ. So I missed the DJ CJ and Mr. TJ go right at it at the safety car restart.
I saw EJ moving over to the other side of the circuit too. A lot of cars going at it for the back in terms of the race for position here, as we see a number of cars. Big kerfuffle there, as you say, Ben, going through turn 9 this time.
What a double move!
Landlord on those old tyres leading a big pack as DJ makes the move, as you say, on EJ into that spot. Of course, has that penalty. Well, let him get it down. And Landlord on those medium tyres, those warm medium tyres, is dropping back like crazy here. He's lost 3 spots on his first lap alone since we're back to racing again. Grumio leads, but DRS about to be brought to play once again here. So we'll see what that game now means as Landlord now calls it quits into the pit lane. I think to stay out under the safety car was an unwise move indeed.
Yeah, I don't know what Landlord planned there, but as soon as we saw in the safety car restart, Landlord was dropping like flies.
So Landlord then is away. Medium tyres now onto that race car. The tyres cause a few lap fresher than everyone else's, but a big concern from there in terms of what he's going to do now this late in the at this point in the Grand Prix, unless we see a safety car to catch him back up later on. Dan is closing the gap. Landlord's onto a second set of medium tyres, so we'll definitely need to stop again. And we'll be on hard later on this race. Going to push this second stint, I should think. As Dan challenges Grimmy on the outside, going into turn 6. Yellow flag still in that first sector, but everyone looks all recovered. Sorry, that's a safety car glitch. I don't know why it keeps on doing that. Dan with DRS in play once again, going down towards turn 9. Grimmy defends the inside. Imri making the pass on AT for P5 behind. Dan making his move, trying to go for his bid for the second for the lead, but can't do it. Can't find a way in off turn 9. And Grimmy continues to lead here, but Imri up another spot here, past both McLarens, and now into the fifth spot. Websy and Pope there in front of him.
Yeah, I wonder, so Grumio's positioning into the chicane, the triple chicane at the end of the first straight was absolutely perfect. It was straight down to the point where he couldn't go clear and obvious on the outside, but then if he committed to the inside, it would have been screwed down the second straight. So really good positioning from the 10-time world champion.
And obviously there's a good reason why he's 110 RDL Championships, even though obviously we know a lot of the grid wishes that he would sort of just pack it in and retire at this stage. He's done more than enough to prove himself in this league, but he'll continue on leading the way here. There's 18 laps to go in this Grand Prix, so plenty of time for more action, not even halfway through as of yet. Landor currently 21.5 seconds back, but closing rapidly on Divine Stag. So we'll see how much Landor can push it in this second stint as Grimmy tries to break the toe this time. Again, positioning himself as best he can to defend the inside. So Dan makes the move this time, going the long way around once more, going towards turn 6, but this time a lot more straight to play with. Dan takes the lead, but Grimmy sends it back down the inside again. Both cars avoiding contact. Very good racecraft on show from both drivers. Dan slides a bit and allows Pope to open the door, trying to make a move on corner exit, can't find a way in. Making the way down towards turn 9 again. It's Grimmy in play behind Dan this time. He's going to make his move to the outside, and Dan trying the same thing, going to force Grimmy the long way round, but nothing will keep Grimmy at bay. He will not be denied. Race leader once again around the outside as they leave turn 9, but Dan still in there, still fighting towards the hotel section. Grimmy gets himself back in front as Pope holds off Websy for third. Pope locks up, and that'll bring Imri, AT, and HB Cook back into play, Ben. 7-car train fighting for that top spot.
Yeah, what is going off in this race? This safety car restart has been absolute mental, but that was crucial for Grumio to at least pull that move around the outside, showing the confidence what a 10-time world champion will have. But this, all of a sudden, it has turned into a 7-car train for the lead.
So we see 18 HB Cook there still involved a little bit. Whether they can try and go for a move back on Imri remains to be seen, but he's looking like the one on a mission right now. But he has some work to try and get himself closer to Websy and Pope to make that challenge for the 4th and then the 3rd spot. Dan and Grimio, obviously, they're leading this train, but they've been in the world of their own since the lights went out earlier on in the Grand Prix. Imri, of course, still recovering there from that, what we're guessing was that anti-stall on the start. We'll have to see if we can find out later on as to what that was exactly. And of course, the bad luck under the safety, with tying under the safety car too, is Websy challenging Pope here, going down towards turn 6. Can't go for it. Pope also has DRS for the moment, so obviously the big DRS train is in play. Further back in the order here, we'll keep an eye out. It looks like all single file here. Everything that's sort of calmed down since the restart. Landor now 19.5 seconds back from Divine Stag, who is falling away himself there from Courtney Goblin in P17 as Grumio and Dan go at it again. Dan reclaims the lead, and Imri being challenged by AT around the outside going into turn 9. We'll be close to contact, but both cars get away nice and easy, and Imri holds on to things on the inside, and through turn 9 he'll hold on to 5th. But AT is definitely not messing around, as obviously these guys separated by just 6 points in the Drivers' Championship in the race for P6. And it's looking like that'll be the closest fight in terms of the Drivers' Championship later on in these last 2 rounds. EJ gets the second penalty of the evening. That's 3 seconds for him. And this one looks to be a bit more legit than DJ's was.
Yeah, DJ's were on the entry into the pit lane. EJ's was just coming into the hotel section now. It's so easy to HC Chatham. It's there. Just a quick note on the top 2, what they're doing considerably much better compared to likes of Wednesday. Imri is managing their ARS. So Imri only has 7% at the moment, whereas Dan at the moment has 57%. So we've got quite a bit of ARS to use.
Obviously, those two are playing different games right now, I'd say, compared to each other. Obviously, Dan's main focus is keeping Grimio at bay, but Imri's trying to push forward. And he's not having much luck right now because AT is still on his tail, going down towards turn number 6. And this time, oh, yellow flag's out. Safety car is deployed once again. No one's retired from the race.
I think is it Divine?
It might be
Divine again.
He's still running, but I remember some sort of incident there early on.
I
can't see any damage.
No,
I haven't got anything. I can't change my camera yet for some reason, which is frustrating. I'd like to know. Oh, yes. Full front wing there lost for Divine Stag. Second safety car then. And Landlord will obviously get himself back in the race here, but Pope may come in this time. Obviously, these guys who are on medium tyres, who perhaps are hoping for that slightly shorter second stint. This will be a crunch time point in the Grand Prix, Ben, because obviously, well, at least for those medium tyre runners, I think the hard tyre guys can go out a bit longer, but at this point can go on whatever tyre they want. So the only question here is, with everyone having made their stop, what do you do now?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer for the medium compound tyre runners, but then again, the hard compound tyre runners, unless you've got a second set of hard tyres to use, you've kind of got a bit of predicament, as we are going to see the pit lane liven up once again.
A split strategy here for a number of cars. Both Dan and Grumio stay going to the pit lane. Imri, Websy, HP Cook stay out. Websy now inherits the lead. And so some of these front runners going for a different strap on those hard tyres compared to the cars that have just come in. And this, I think, starts to get a bit more interesting then. So differing choices being made, and we'll see later on how that impacts them in their Grand Prix. Maybe banking perhaps on perhaps a third safety car of some kind. Landlord will give us back in the fight, hopefully for some points in this race, as McLaren obviously still striving to maintain third place, which they should do in the Constructors' Championship, but Landlord is still holding his on to third place. Can't lose any points to Che. If Che not in the Grand Prix, Divine Stag in to change that front wing. Landlord is staying out. So he goes through turn one, and we'll get back up to 18th place. Soft tyres and a wing change for Divine Stag. So the first time we're seeing the soft tyres in use in this Grand Prix. Websy then now leads Imri, HP Cook, DJ and TJ. And your first hard tyre, your first runners on fresh tyres with Dan and Grumio, now P9 and P10. So this race might have got a bit more interesting there, Ben, as we'll now see who's got the speed on these tyres.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be fascinating to see. Obviously, that's Grumio and Pope are on much fresher hard compound tyres. Those in front, I don't think are going to stand much for a chance of defending their positions when Grumio and the likes of Pope do come up behind them. The tyre grip around here is so crucial, particularly around the final sector. That's where you lose all your time if your tyres are completely falling off the roof. As of penalty watch at the moment in time, obviously only 2 drivers have got the penalties at the moment, one of which could be taken off due to an in-game glitch, but this is actually turning out to be a pretty decent Grand Prix for track limits, not like Qatar.
Obviously, in Qatar, a lot more wide open in that sense, a lot more places to get it wrong, I should think, compared to Abu Dhabi. Obviously, a lot more closed in. Obviously, both tracks are purpose built, but obviously, Qatar is more sort of for motorbikes, as we've seen. Obviously, with MotoGP for a long time over in that sport. Formula One, the tyre not particularly. I wouldn't say the circuit's particularly built for Formula One, but it's definitely some exciting racing for us, particularly in last week's Grand Prix. Of course, we saw Grumio and Che go head to head. So Websy leads then. Obviously, in terms of the differentiation in terms of strategy, normally, Ben, I'd agree with you in terms of these guys fighting through the order if there was only 1 or 2 cars instead. But there's 8 cars who've all stayed on the circuit. So there's considerably more drivers to get through to get back into the lead this time. So we'll see in terms of how Dan, Grumio, Pope, AT, how they handle that. It's those 4 we're going to keep an eye out for in terms of this Grand Prix. Or for the remainder of the race, at least until we look towards the last stops. But these guys have all stopped. We could be banking perhaps on a third and maybe final safety car in this race in order to have any chance of everyone being close together on new tyres. So it'll make for an interesting finish if we get that, but I think it's unlikely at this stage. Everyone's kept it quite clean, and we're still not entirely sure what happened to Divine Stag to cause the second safety car. I mean, we're guessing it was him because there was damage to his front wing, but I didn't see any sort of, obviously no retirees, nothing that was different to Tenstor Instant a few laps ago. So we'll see from there later on how things get handled as the safety car is coming in this lap, and we'll see of Websy and Imri who gets the better restart.
Yeah, we'll see what happens as these safety car restarts can be an absolute pain for some of those drivers further back on in the field. You feel like you're doing like a turtle's pace. It is honestly so bad. And then you all of a sudden get going again. So it's like your tyres are just not ready. So we'll see what happens on this restart.
So half of the field now, or over half the field, have now made 2 laps and made 2 stops in this race. I don't know if made 2 laps in this race. The other half still having done just the 1. So it's going to be interesting, this one, to see how the old tyre runners get things handled. As Websy is eager to get things started. He's making his move away and pulling away already. The exact opposite of Grumio's restart. Imri and HP Cook follow on quite quickly here. Back to racing here on lap 17. 13 laps to go here in Abu Dhabi. And Websy is away, but Imbri is on his tail going down towards turn number 1. So we'll see how these guys handle things. Dan and Grumio have to get right to work here. They've got Cottony Goblin there in front. It's Imri. Go, cut around. Grumio around. Off into the barrier. That's JB, apologies. JB off into the barrier and losing off a bit of his end plate there. Tough restart for JB. Imri into the race lead here. I didn't see his move for the lead, but he's now back in front again.
Yeah, I saw his move. He had such a good traction compared to the Alpine just going out turn 1. He literally got ready to run into turn 2, which is not the way you'd normally make an overtake. But bad news for JB. That is definitely not what he needed.
And a wing change will likely be in the offing there for JB. Who'll need to get round the circuit as quickly as he can to try and avoid losing any more time. Imri now in front of about half a second, but you can see Dan and Grimmer making moves here. They've already passed Cottony Goblin. Pope just go around his teammate too. AT will be the last one of the quadruplet there to make a move and get around that Mercedes. As we head down towards turn 9, Grimmer now trying to challenge Dan into that 9th corner. They're close to contact, very close to contact there, practically banging tyres several times over there. Grimmer's got to lead down some space here, going through turns 10 and 11. Both cars come out clean. Grimmer keeps it in front. And now it's Alvar there in the 6th spot. He's been on those tyres for 9 laps. Imri's been on those tyres for 11. I should think we need to stop one more time in order to get to the end of this Grand Prix without too much drama. But Websy is still on his tail. On to lap 18 now. Imri leading for the first time all evening. He could have been leading a bit earlier on, if not for the anti-stall earlier on the race start. So we'll see how things get handled now as Grumio makes the pass on Alvar into turn 1. And penalty for Imri there. As Grumio trying to leave Dan in his wake as they make the way through turns 2 and 3. Lando pitting as well, as is JB. And Lando's simple tyre change here. On a wing change too, sorry. No wing change. I'm messing things up. JB with the wing change. Lando is away on hard tyres. JB we should be seeing him coming in this time for that change. Just the end plate lost there. Hard, medium tyres. Only could probably might be able to run those to the end with a bit of luck. And front wing is on as well. Websy takes the lead back from Imri then going into turn number 6. These two will try and fight it out as AT gets around Alvar now. Grumio into P6, 1.5 seconds back, 1.3 seconds back from Mr. TJ in the 5th spot. Top 5 have pulled away here as Imri may try and get Websy back, going down towards turn 9. Makes his move to the inside. It's a late move from Imri. Can't quite pull it off then. Websy holds on to the lead. Actually, no, scrap that. Imri trying on the outside, going towards turn 10. Very tight there. Websy keeps the car in front. Imri looking for it, locks up.
Oh, God.
These two are really going at it, Ben.
Yeah, this is all the while. This is bringing the likes of CJ and HP Cook into play. HP Cook, of course, sitting in a beautiful 3rd position for Fix Alba. That will help them out relatively but the likes of Alpine will be still outscoring, so Ericsson really needs to get up there for that constructors fight at the moment in time. Bad news for him with that penalty. If there's a late race safety car, he is screwed.
We'll have to see here in terms of how this race continues to play out here. Websy now holds the lead once again, but Imri keeping with him. These guys still on these same tyres. I doubt they can really go much further than this, if I'm being truthful. Given how quickly the medium tyres wore off earlier on in the race, and given how much obviously everyone's now, save for JB and Divine Stag, is on hard tyres, likely go to the end here. Imri's done 13 laps on those things. So obviously he was the first car to pit in this Grand Prix, the first car to make for a routine change for tyres in this Grand Prix. Obviously Divine Stag stopped first, but obviously had to change his front wing as well. So we'll leave that for the minute. But Imri, obviously, his race is impacted by that safety car as Curtis makes the pass on EJ. Obviously Alvar is up into P10 right now. Obviously yet to stop, but at the minute he's still scoring 1 point over Ferrari. Brings the gap down to 3 points between Ferrari and RB and going to the last race. As Dan makes the pass on his temporary teammate TJ. Grimio's still there in P5. He's closing on DJ. These guys getting involved now in the race for the lead. I think I'm wondering perhaps if these guys are trying to run as long as they can, either go to the end on these tyres or to try and just extend it as much as they can before going to mediums for their last stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at lap time now, Grimio is only 2.5 seconds off the lead. So he is really close to the lead. Obviously, if these top 4 do end up pitting, which I'm sure they will, he will be roughly 20 seconds in front of them, which is quite a lot.
Obviously, Dan, Pope, and AT will be hunting those guys down in the closing laps of the Grand Prix. We're inside on the final 10 laps of this thing. And as you say, I mean, if we are looking perhaps at a late stop for the majority of these guys, then we could be seeing, obviously, a Grimio lead change regardless. It feels inevitable at this stage he will take the lead unless Dan can try and stop him, who's been the consistent challenger throughout the evening here, as Grumio is closing on both HP Cook and DJ. HP Cook falling back a little bit here, going down towards turn number 6. Will Grumio try a send on the Sauber? Won't try it. DJ, though, breaking quite early there. Looks for the left-hander. So, but obviously keeps the car under control. HP Cook, poor exit compared to Grumio in behind. DRS in play for both cars, but to no avail for the Sauber, as the Williams will go blasting around the outside. Well, I should think go blasting on the outside. HP Cook hangs on to it, so these hard tyres, perhaps not doing too badly for the minute, as AT makes the pass on TJ, put him right back behind Pope again. Dan is holding on to things here. Grumio trying to make a move on corner exit. Can't do it, falls back into line. I mean, these guys are still chasing. It's only 2.7 seconds. Yellow flag's out, and that is TJ around. Well, not TJ around, rather. He's recovered, it seems, but some sort of incident with TJ. He's all okay, no damage done. May have just been a slide.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch that either. I just saw the yellow flag just go through as many drivers as physically possible. So I'm not sure quite what happened there, but we have just seen the RB box. So that's Alvo into the pit lane.
And this will likely be, obviously, I should think of it, the final stop for him. And we'll likely see medium tyres go onto that race car, and we'll see what he does choose to do. He comes in for RB, TJ same thing, medium tyres, yep, indeed, on both race cars. Both cars are away now, nice and easy, and I'll get into the Grand Prix, end of the Grand Prix, I should think. Grumio still 3.2 behind. Has had a bit more work to do in trying to close down on HB Cook. I mean, on those fresher tyres, it's doing good right now. Their tyres will always be fresher. Websy still leads the way, Imri still second, DJ in third, as Grumio makes the pass. Contact between HB and Dan. Dan trying to go around the outside if he can. Will go around the outside. Nice and easy there. Pope trying to make a move, trying to follow those guys through, trying not to lose too much time. AT has fallen back a little bit, but still very much in the battle. Pope makes the pass. AT, the last cars go through. Doesn't want to lose sight of that train. That was very close to contact with the back of the Sauber there. But Grumio's march with the train behind him continues on. They're now 2.7, 2.8 seconds back from Websy in the lead. Yellow flag, and that is Curtis around. And you see there, as Courtney Goblin finds his way around him just. Recovers the car. Yes. And I think Curtis may have got away with that hitting the wall there, which is good. And we'll see when he comes back around if there's any damage done to the Ferrari. Oh, there is. See the contact with the car, contact by M plate. And Curtis is one of those cars who did stop under that second safety car, so we'll need to pit again here. Tough break for him. He can't get away with perhaps a second stop and then running it from there. So Curtis pits in. Tough break for him. A tough break for Ferrari. Obviously, Alvar down in P15 now, so things looking okay for him for the minute. So I should think they'll be all right from here on out. Obviously, EJ currently in P9, but has that penalty to think about. So we may go to the last race, Ben, between Ferrari and RB, with those two still being separated by just 4 points. So there may be no change coming in tonight. We'll carry on with things as we are now. Grumio's still there, 2.2 back from the race lead at the moment. Going down towards turn 9, but only time separating Imri or Grumio from Imri and Websy, who are still going on those hard tyres. I just think that both of them are trying to get to the end. And Grumio will be closing here with nothing but air separating those two entities on the track. There's still 7 laps to go. I see no way that those two can both keep Grumio at bay. Dan needs to get around DJ sooner rather than later. He's quickly losing sight of Grumio here. He's had open air for just a moment. Is now pulling away. Pope behind him. HB Cook still there in 7th, 8th, and 8th. So it's been a very, very, very tough Grand Prix for those guys who have obviously stayed on that set of tyres from the first stop. The one stop not quite working for a number of these guys, as Grumio now has a look there at Imri, who's now got his mirrors full with the Williams in behind. Webb's still showing the way. Grumio has got 1 car to pass for. He's making his move for the lead. They go to try and defend from Imri going into turn 6. Well, Imri defends from Grumio. Close to contact, slight touch. Imri gets out in front of the corner, but Grumio the better exit, switches back on the Red Bull, move Grumio into second, and if Imri can try and get a toe along compared to the hard tyre Williams, the fresher hard tyre Williams, then he should be looking at the race lead here. Should Grumio, with 6 laps to go across the line. Webbs, he's had a merry old time leading in front, but Grumio has now caught him, And we are looking potentially at victory once again for Grumio if he can make that move stick at some point over the next 6 laps. Dan, though, is still trying to close on these guys, and we'll need to get closer quickly before Grumio takes the lead and pulls away. It's going to be a very, very close fight to the end between those guys. Imri now pitting in. He took the chance and another penalty there. I think he's been caught out in the pit lane as DJ was. DJ is still there in 4th place. Making a change here. And now likely be a medium tyres, or perhaps even a set of soft tyres go to the end. We'll see what he does. Medium tyres are on. So Imri's away there. P12, I think, done in perhaps by the safety car earlier on in the Grand Prix. Tough break for him. And we'll get one last chance to try and nab that victory in the reverse grid for 9 next week in Britain at Silverstone. Get P12 for him right now. It's looking good for Pope at the minute with currently 4th place going his way, as Grumio now takes the lead from Websy, and that could be the win for the evening unless Dan can get around Websy fast. But Pope is now looking potentially here at a run for obviously for the 4th spot, so 12 points going their way. So that means that Mercedes will lead Red Bull by 5 points going into the last round, Ben. So we're looking here at a Mercedes advantage going into the last race at Silverstone, unless Imri can get some points back after the second pit stop he's just made.
Yeah, Imri's got a bit of a recovery drive in these final 6 laps also. The current gap in front at the moment is 12 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. But expect Imri to eat away at that advantage.
Oh, Landlord's
is there no
retirement crash?
Landlord?
Has he crashed? Or is he just putting the car over, I think? Yep, he's just pulling it over. Right, Landlord is out of the Grand Prix. Well, I think that'd be a safety car. There's no damage. There's no debris on the circuit. So looking all good for now then. Still 5 laps to go. Dan needs to get around Websy quick in order to have any chance of beating Grumio in this Grand Prix. So it's going to be these two for the race win, but he needs to do it quickly while Grumio is still in DRS range. And it won't go for the send just yet. He's going to try the outside. No avail there. HP Cook pits. I'll put Imri into P11. So 1 place off the points now. And we've still got DJ and Websy who may pit later on this Grand Prix. Websy's been passed now, but may have a good chance still at a podium finish. So looking good for Alpine too in the race against Sauber in the Constructors, with Ericsson in P10. So just the 1 point being scored for Sauber right now. Websy, though, is still in P2 and may fall off the podium if Pope can catch back up. Pope has got DRS only just off of Dan. And Webb's actually closing in on for a move on Grumio here. And that's unexpected. Websy going around the outside of Grumio for the race lead. Ben, do you reckon Websy's still got a chance to win this thing?
Websy does have a decent chance of winning the Grand Prix. Just looking back for now, it looks like Dan's starting to catch up, and then you've got like Pope, who's only 1.5 seconds off 3. So what is easily turned into a 3-car train now can potentially turn into a 4.
It's going to be a exciting run to the end then if Websy can try and keep up with these guys on tyres that have done 7 laps more. Obviously these are the hard tyres, let's not forget. So obviously they can go a lot longer. Pope now joins the train, so 4 laps to go. And we've seen this scenario before. Grumio leading a train in the closing laps in Abu Dhabi. And often in this case he wins these races, but it's going to be tight. Dan, if he wants a chance to win this thing, needs to clear Websy and needs to clear him fast to stand any sort of chance to position himself for a good run. A yellow flag, and that is JB.
I think he may have had a bit of an incident with Curtis there.
Oh, slide for Websy as he slides him in front of Dan there, and that'll break the train a little bit here. No all DRS still in play, but Pope is now alongside Dan, leaving turn 5, go down towards 6, and Websy closing on Grumio here. Websy going for the race lead once again from a slide at turn 5, challenging for the lead at turn 6. What a scrap this has been. What a fight Websy's putting up. But those tyres can only go so long. They're in their peak now, Ben. Dan is through to P2. Remember, this race here for Dan is for the Constructors' title, because at this point, with only him and Grumio scoring points for their respective 2 teams, if Dan can beat Grumio, he outscores Williams by 7 points, which would be enough to win the title. So there's a championship on the line here in Abu Dhabi, and we could go to the next week's race with both titles secure, one for Grumio and one for Haas. But in order to do that, Dan needs to win this race from here.
Yeah, as I've just seen Websy running into the back of Pope. No front wing damage for either car, or no damage at all, should I say. Websy's tyres are now short.
He Let's see Webster coming for a late change. No, he's staying out on it. He's going to try and carry these tyres, try and nurse them to the finish here, but he's keeping AT at bay right now. You saw him running wide on corner exit as they left turn 16. 3 laps to go, and Dan knows what's at stake here. It's going to come down to, as usual, a chess match around these circuits. And obviously, those two DRS zones are in play, Ben, and they will be in play in 2 laps' time. When we get around here to turn 5, on that last lap, where do you want to be? Do you want to be the car in front, or do you want to be the car behind?
It's always a tricky one, this, because if you want to be the car behind, you've got to go aggressive. You've got to make sure that your tyres, and then you've also got to make sure you get the traction down well enough so you've got a chance at the lead. If you're on the lead, like in Greenwood's position at the moment, you do feel very vulnerable at the moment. I don't really know how to say it, really, to be fair. Greenwood's holding off really well.
I'd love to see them what Grimir has in store.
Maybe off until now, though.
Dan may go for a move here to the outside. He's going to go for it. Grimir defends the inside. I think saw it coming, and will continue to lead the way. It's like watching 2 grandmasters at chess battling for position. It could be 3 if Pope gets himself properly involved here. 18 out to P4 and is still in DRS range, so could very much still join this train. So the fight for the podium is not finished yet. We've got 4 cars. We've got no penalties whatsoever. All with tyres. They've done the same amount as Websy. Slides around he goes. And Websy, it's a tough place to be in. No. He has to try and recover that. He can't really, he's going to go for it now as Imri gets the second penalty there. Yellow flag is out. Imri now into P9. May still get a point here depending on whereabouts Websy comes through. If Websy needs a pit now. I think Imri will likely still score a point or 2. Maybe just 1 if Ericsson can stay within 3 seconds. Websy's going to stay out though. He's going to continue on those tyres, but up front though, 2 laps to go, and the race is still very much on. But Dan needs to be right on Grimio's gearbox, giving him constant pressure with a lap and a half left if he wants any chance of winning that Constructors' Championship today. Truthfully, even if they don't win it today, it's still almost a lock for Silverstone next week, but you never know. If they lose it next week, I'm sure he'll bet he'll want to have won it tonight. As they make their way down towards turn number 6 once again, Dan is still looking for that move, makes a charge, almost for a charge for the second to the inside. Yellow flag again, that's Divine Stag, I believe. Yep, had an altercation in the last corner as he did earlier on the Grand Prix. But I'll say it as well, Ben. PJ Khaled there in the 6th spot, and EJ in P5 too. He's actually closing up to the train in the 5th spot. What a race it's been for him. I think possibly his best finish all season. Yeah,
this is turning into a really good race for Aston Martin and for Alpine. Obviously, Wednesday's dropped out of the points now on those really old hard compound tyres, which I'm surprised they're still running, to be fair. I would have thought by now those hard tyres would have definitely fallen off that Alpine. But he's doing really well to keep this tyres alive. He's got another lap and a half to go, so all Dan's right up the gearbox with Grimio.
These guys have got just 1 more lap left. The bell lap is on. Dan has kept himself behind. He hasn't got as much battery as Grimio does, but the last lap now set to get underway. I mean, EJ's in there in P5. If he gets that penalty removed, then he wins this race, let's not forget. Same thing happened to HP Cook a few weeks ago, so this could all be for naught, but Dan will want that race win in case that doesn't get removed. And he is there and looking at Grimio on this final tour of the Yas Marina circuit. Past turn 5, of course, birthplace the iconic Verstappen move on Hamilton. No chance that this time. We'll be looking likely at turn 9 for any last moves being made. Both cars using overtake here in order to try and get as much as they can. Dan is closing in on Grimio, going down towards turn number 6. Will he go for that move to the inside? Won't try it just yet, but in a good spot on corner exit. If he can get a good enough drive off, and this could be the race for the win as they go towards turn 9 for the last time. But then, moment of truth. DRS is in play. Overtake on both cars. Grimio's got plenty of battery here, and it could be an anti-climax, but Dan is closing in, making his move to the outside now. He's going to try and send it on Grimio around the outside, but I don't think he'll be able to do it unless he gets a better exit out of 9, going towards 10. Dan using his overtake, making his move, go to the outside here. He swung out. That's a bit too soon there. Will he try and send it on Grimio? Won't do it. Grimio has kept all of these guys at bay, 3 of them in the closing stages. Pope and AT following them home, and Grimio will define this Constructors' Championship going to the last race of the season at Silverstone next week. And Grimio has made this place his playground in previous seasons. He comes to the last corner, has held Dan off at the closing moments, and Grimio takes victory then in Abu Dhabi. Once again, second win of the season. Second win in a row, sorry. Dan in 2nd, Pope 3rd, AT 4th, PJ 5th, EJ with that penalty in 6th place. Could it get removed? He could be the winner. You never know. Ethan in P7, DJ 8th, Imri in 9th. In the end, safety car didn't play into his hands. Sorry, Imri falling down the order, rather. Sorry,
Imri has finished. Imri has finished. It's due to its time penalties, that's why.
Ah, okay, right. There we go. Imri then P12 then, the flag then. We'll have to keep an eye on that. Obviously, you got one of those penalties when he was coming to the pit lane, so I had to keep an ear out for the stewards later on in the week. Websy P13 then, HB Cook P14. Tough day for Sauber in the end, but Ericsson gets a point home in the end. Second point score in a row for him. Cottony P15, Curtis, Divine Stag, and JB last of the finishing cars. So obviously a mixed bag for Williams in terms of both sides of the garage there, but Grumio wins. And the championship, the race of the constructors will go on then to Silverstone with the gap sitting at 34 points between the pair of them. Emery now being put down as a DNF. Obviously, that's not the case. Obviously, we saw he finished the Grand Prix, but Grumio wins it then. Another win and another notch in a spectacular season for him. So celebration.
What result for Grumio?
Yeah, result indeed, Ben. That is.
What a race.
Yeah. Good way of putting it. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Give me your thoughts, mate.
Just, it couldn't stop delivering action. There are actually left, right, centre. Cars overtaking one another, left, right, centre, lap after lap. It was a very good race.
A very entertaining race, to say the least. I think, honestly, great race. I have to agree with you, Ben, as always. Grumio wins it then. Dan in second once again. Grumio beating home one of the Haas cars, seemingly on the weekly basis. But only one more race to go this season until this championship comes to a conclusion. Grumio wins it then from Dan second, Pope in third, AT fourth. It's PJ in P5, EJ P6, Ethan seventh, DJ, Alvar, Ericsson, your points paying places. TJ 11th, we saw Imri come home in P12 in the end. Websy P13, then it's HB Cook, Cottony, Curtis, Divine Stag, JB, your last finishing cars, and of course Landlord in 10th. Both go down as DNFs after a tough Grand Prix for the pair of them. Landlord calling it quits after about 22 laps or so, and 10th Cannon obviously with that crash earlier on in the race that brought out that first safety car. So I don't imagine the Red Bull garage is too... it's an odd one for them to have to handle, but yeah, just a chaotic Grand Prix, and definitely a lot more exciting than we had around Abu Dhabi in previous seasons. This wasn't Grumio domination by any means, so, and that always makes Grand Prix, I think, more fun in my eyes. So we'll have to see here in terms of should we get anyone talking post-race interview-wise. I mean, you saw Ben, the two-stop worked out as you said to me before we got underway. So obviously, good call on that. And strategy-wise, next week will be as insane because we go to Silverstone for a full-length Grand Prix. So that'll be great fun to keep an eye on regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. Is what we're going to start to notice is obviously it's full-length Grand Prix, no qualifying. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the drivers fare. Changeable conditions. We know what Silverstone is going to be like. We know what the UK weather is going to be like. So before we know it, it's sort of wet. We dry after 10, 15 laps or so, and then can go back to being wet. We all don't know what the weather is going to be like around Silverstone.
It'll be an interesting one for sure. But in terms of post-race interviews, we have now got Pope in here. Pope, third place in the end. Congratulations, obviously, second podium finish in a row. Was there a chance you could make a run perhaps at Dan Grumio at the end, or were they in another league today?
I won't say another league. I only finished 3 attempts behind them. You know what I mean? It's just, I had no idea what they had in the back of their engines. In the back of the car, because it was just, I couldn't match him on the straights. But in the corners, I felt really, really quite good actually, gaining quite a bit. And overtaking's hard on this game. We all know that. I'm not going to reiterate the same point that we do every week. But I think that's probably the best it could have got. I mean, two positions up at the start and just kept my position, and yeah, happy with that.
Obviously, the contrast in terms of a lot of drivers who stayed out in that second safety car, whereas obviously you, Grumio, Dan, AT, all came in for that set of hard tyres to run to the end on. Obviously, working your way through traffic, how much of a challenge was that? Obviously, being on fresh tyres.
Not too much of a challenge in the aspect of it was quite clean for the most part anyway. Like, there wasn't really many incidents that I had. And it was exciting as well. That's the main thing. You can overtake when your tyre delta is so big. So I enjoy that. And to keep with them, even going through the traffic, that's the harder thing to do. So I'm happy that I was able to stick with them.
Fair enough. And obviously, we'll look to the finale next week at Silverstone. With the third place finish, and if Imri does finish outside of the points, which he may have done thanks to the penalties, I have to keep an eye out for that. But 15-point potentially maximum gain on Red Bull. You may go, you came into this one, Mercedes 7 points back from Red Bull. You may, a maximum, you may go in 8 points to the good. So is that a gap you think you're confident you can maintain, you and Connie, in the last race?
Ooh, I mean, it's a little, obviously, I'm not focused too much on constructors at the minute. I'm eyeing up that fourth place in that drivers because I'm only, 8 points behind, nine points behind Che. So that's tight as well. But for constructors, I hope we can. I mean, reverse grid finale for that final race of the season. So that puts Cotton in a really good position to hold his own a little bit. So maybe a point. Hopefully, that would be amazing. A result for the team for Cotton to get a point. But we'll have to see. I presume I'd be starting higher than Imri on the qualifying order. So if I can just keep him behind and overtake 10th, then yeah, let's go and try and get that constructors because I'll be very happy if we can.
I should think you'd probably be right. I'd imagine we'd probably be seeing Grumio and Imri on the back row together. Or perhaps Dan in there. We'll have to get a word in from Dan, see what about he thinks he should be putting himself. We'll come down to Dan, who comes home in second place in the end, just behind Grumio. The gap at the very end there, down at the checker flag, 0.189 seconds. So close one. You obviously kept with these guys all day long. Was there anything different you would have done in that final lap?
Maybe taking him out would have done it, but nah. I've got I was quite happy with today's race. So if I'm gonna beat him, I want to beat him fair and square, and it makes our job a little bit more difficult for next week for the constructors. But I think it's only P5 we need at the moment. So yeah, good stuff for Haas. It's been a long season, but one more race and we'll look forward to it.
Will there be a sense of sort of relief there if you guys manage to pull off and win the Constructors' Championship? I think this will be the first time in 4 seasons that a team with neither Grumio nor Landlord in it has managed to win the title. So that's obviously that's a big get.
Yeah, I don't think it's a sense of relief. I think it's a sense of pride, really, just to be able to beat someone that is this fast in Grumio. He's won all but I think 5, how many races? 6 races I think this season. It's just mental. So to be able to have a team that can even compete with him really is it's long, like I said, long season. We've been behind at times, we've been ahead more than what we have at times, but very proud of mine and Che's efforts this season.
And in terms of personal look, obviously with Silverstone as a circuit, obviously being reverse track next week, is that something you've put much practice into? We're just going to take it on the day and see what happens.
Take it on the day, see what happens. I've got a 8-hour Bahrain on Saturday to compete in, so hopefully we go well in that one, and then focus on Silverstone Sunday, Monday.
I mean, there's no wonder you're still going to be 100% races. I mean, that sort of the Le Mans Ultimate stuff will definitely help in that sense. But obviously, good race today. I think pace was more than definitely there for you. I think in another scenario, you probably would have been on course to win the race. But yeah, I mean, again, podium finish, fantastic stuff for you. And that will cap things off, I should think, in terms of posted interviews, and that will do it for the stream. Ben, any final thoughts then before we leave things off?
No, it's just obviously congrats to everyone who finished the race. Congrats to those who obviously finished in the top 10, and then honestly just thank you for proving to be such an exciting race, and hopefully we can recreate that around Silverstone.
Hopefully, indeed. One more race to go then in Racers Driving League Season 19 that will come on Monday the 17th of November. The Grand Prix will be starting a few minutes after 7 o'clock, so make sure to get here as soon as you can for the start of the Grand Prix. It should be an absolute exciting one. The first reverse grid finale is to be held on a reverse track. It should be an absolute doozy. I have been Zach RC. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more future audio content. Have a fantastic evening, and we'll catch you guys next time. Goodbye.